Hello and welcome to our multiplayer mobile game with Unreal Engine gameplay ability system, dedicated server, and AWS. This is an advanced tutorial that covers the entire building process of a mobile game from the first character to the final dedicated server setup. And at the end of the tutorial, you'll have a fully functional multiplayer competitive game that can be shared and played across the entire world that is backed by dedicated servers. I'm very excited to share with you the content of the course, the final results, so let's jump right in. Alright, what you will learn. The first thing we'll be covering is the Unreal Engine gameplay abilities system. We'll be making a lot of gameplay abilities, and those abilities are something the player can learn, can upgrade, and they're level driven. What I mean by that is when the game starts, the ability will show up as a grayed out icon here. They are not learned. And then the player will have one upgrade point they can use to actually learn the ability, and every ability they can learn will have a blinking square on them. And the player then will pick one ability to learn, consume that upgrade point, and that's when the ability becomes level 1, and that's when it can be casted. And of course we'll have a nice looking cooldown display that will implement the entire UI also. And the abilities are level driven, so their effects are driven by gameplay effects, and all the damage, cooldown, cost, and other status, they're respecting the level of the gameplay abilities. So in level 1 you may have 1 damage, and in level 2 you may have 2 or more. And the cooldown time, the cost, everything will be different for different levels. Okay, in fact we'll be making 10 abilities in total, 2 basic attacks, 1 melee, 1 ranged, and 8 abilities for 2 of our characters. So there's a lot of things to cover, and we'll be reading almost each line of the code possible. Next thing we'll be covering in more detail is the attribute set and attribute driven status. Our characters will have some basic attribute that will then be driving the rest of their attributes. What I mean by that is they'll have things like strengths that will be driving their max health and their health region, intelligence to drive their max mana and mana region. They'll have attack power to drive the basic attack damage, armor for damage reduction, and speed for their movement speed. And all of these then will be driven by the level and experience. We'll have algorithms to determine what the strength value intelligence are for each of the character, and they'll be driven differently. They'll have intelligence driven characters or strength characters, so they grow differently. And then we'll also have a table to determine what kind of a level is requiring what kind of a experience, right, to reach the next level. And then also that those strength, intelligence, and attack power and those kind of things will then be driving health, mana, and attack differently based on the character's attributes and then their growth rate. Okay, so this is a very sophisticated system. It's very similar to most of the mobile games you see, so you'll be learning very practical approaches. Alright, time to meet our characters. The first one we'll be implementing is this robot-like melee hack and slash character. As you can see, it's primarily more strength driven, and we have more strength to start with. We'll have lesser intelligence, a moderate amount of attack power, armor, and movement speed. Let's look at the actual gameplay. So we'll have the combo that has multiple punches, each have different amount of damage. We'll also have this uppercut that can be even chained with additional combos. We'll also have this ground blast that can launch your enemy up and then deal damage as well. We'll have another dashing ability that will be dashing and poke through your enemies. And of course this tornado that's gonna push everyone around you and then also stun them. Next character we'll be implementing is a ranged and mage style character. As you can see, we have more intelligence this time and also lesser attack power, armor, but moves faster. Let's also look at the gameplay footage here. Okay, so our character has a ranged attack, so you can aim and then attack, and then we'll have this really cool laser ability that's going to push your enemy through the line that it hits. Okay, we'll also have this blinking that can blink you to a different place and then stun the enemy around you when you launch. We'll have this really nice looking S-freeze ability will slow down the enemy, deal damage. And this last one is my favorite. You can actually pull all the enemies to a center black hole, and you can deal a final blast to push them out and also stun them. So the gameplay of our game is that you have this giant valley that has 2 parties trying to push a storm core over to the other base. And the idea is that you have this storm core in the middle that's moving, that has a blue circle on it, right? And then each party then spawns on their corresponding platform, trying to then reach that core and then push that core over to the other team. And when the core reaches to the end of the other team, that's when you actually win the game, and the core will capture the spherical structure that we call their moon, right? Capture that, and then you win. The gameplay is very similar to mobile game, but with a different kind of goal, which is pushing something. Okay, and then so the storm core is a special structure, and it's moved based on the number of units from each team. And to win the game again, you need to push the storm core to the base of the other team and capture their moon. Here, just another quick demo here. You can see our character is seeing that moon there. They go into the circle of the moon. That's when you push them forward. As you can see now on the top center, we have numbers to indicate how many units you have from each party. The more unit you have, the more it's going to be pushed towards the other end. We have an algorithm to determine how fast it moves. And your goal again, as you can see the fast gameplay here, is to again push the core to the other end of the map, so that when eventually it reaches to the other team's base, it will actually capture that moon, and that's when you win the game. Alright, another thing we'll be implementing for a game is the inventory and shop system. We'll make one that's fully compatible with gameplay ability system. And we have some consumable items and stackable items, and we'll have combination trays, so you can have smaller items to combine into bigger items. And some items can even grant additional abilities to the character. Let's look at the demo here. So hover the cursor to any of the items to show their name, description, and price. You can click on any of the item to show their combination tray. This is their entire tray. You can then buy the ingredients that will automatically combine into the item. And again, you can click anywhere, either in the list of shop items or in any of the item in the tray to show their combinations. It quickly swaps to their entire combination tray from lower to upper stream. Some items are stackable. As you can see, this health region, you can buy 5 of them until you need another slot. Dragging item can change their location in your inventory. You can simply left click to consume them. Okay. And then some other item grants actually abilities, like this one, for example. You can use it to cast the ability, right? And again, that will also update when you change the slot. Some item grant additional attributes. For example, if I cast the item here and then sell that ring, I will lose mana, so I cannot cast it anymore. Buying a new one will also reflect that. As you can see, it's very flexible and very similar to most of the mobile games. Unlike a casual co-op game, our game is actually a competitive multiplayer game, which means that we do need to set up a dedicated server so that we have each of the player to have the same ground, instead of one of the player being the server and have the advantage of the latency, and they can even cheat. Okay, so be building our server to Linux. We'll then create a simple server launching orchestration with Python, and then we'll be containerizing our server with Docker, and then deploy it with Docker Compose. And then we'll also be testing our server first on our Windows machine with Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL. And then eventually we'll be deploying our server to Amazon Web Service with its EC2. As you can see, there are so many more things we need to do outside of Unreal Engine to be able to deploy a dedicated server. This is way more complicated than making a listening server. A dedicated server requires a remote machine to be running the server. To support multiple sessions of the game playing, you actually need to launch multiple sessions of the server instance, and each session then be hosting 10 players to play a game. So that's why we need that orchestration. Right, so all those things are not easy to set up, but we want to drive this home, right? We want to create a game that is actually running properly, right? It's having its server that's running on a remote machine. It's not on local machine. You can literally launch the game, connect the server. You can then play with other players all over the world, right? You can connect to even the other side of the planet, and you'll still be able to play with them with some latency, of course. But the bottom line is we're making a game that's complete, and as complete as it's needed, right, to be a actual competitive multiplayer game. To support multiplayer, of course, we need to have things like user login, lobby, and character selection. We'll have a lobby creation menu that allows the player to either create a lobby or find a lobby and join it. We'll have then the lobby UI for the player to pick a team and a slot. And of course, we'll have this nice looking character selection menu that the player can then pick a character, and that will display their abilities and also a nice visual. So be prepared. Everything we have listed out will be actually implemented in detail throughout the tutorial. This is not for beginners. Be sure that you have the basic understanding of Unreal Engine, C++, and programming in general. In fact, it will be written 14,000 lines of C++, close to 300 videos, and around 60 hours of video content, and many different technologies will be used, not just for Unreal Engine, but 2 programming languages, Docker, WSL, SSH, AWS, Git, and many others. Be sure that you have the time, the dedication, and the patience to do it. This will take you a long while. Now, with that being said, if that intimidated you a little bit, I hope that the next gameplay footage will actually give you the will to actually do it. Let's enjoy.